Welcome to another episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast. I'm David Gilliland, one of your hosts. We are privileged to have John Taylor Garner here from Odin. He's a founder with Odin and just calling out of New York. Thanks so much for joining the call, John.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
We love figuring out the stories. We love hearing where you came from, what sparked it, and then how you got to where you are now. Do you mind just sharing, a 1 minute version of how this all got going, John?
Yeah, sure thing. So I grew up internationally. Lived in London and Singapore. Came back to college for the States, but always loved traveling. However, I needed to get a job and pay for apartment rent and all that. So I started off as a volatility trader at Merrill Lynch. I ran the International Macro Cross-Asset Volatility book. I was there for a little under 6 years. And after a while, I was like, I don't want to be doing this for the rest of my life. So I wanted to start a company that tied in with my passions. So my first venture was called Card Curator. It was a consumer play, B2C, all-in-one super app for credit cards. We cover the entire vertical from point of purchase through redemption. So tell you which card to use to help you get to Tokyo in first class, for example. And found out the hard way that B2C is challenging, especially during COVID. So after we shut down Card Curator, started Odin, which is not dissimilar, still in loyalty space, but it's B2B focused, where we help major banks, major loyalty programs, fintechs, neobanks, and the such optimize the end user experience. So I'm talking the consumers, the credit card holders, via a embedded fintech play, so via our APIs, or through our holistic white label travel portals that we can provide for them as well.
So, a lot of fancy words. In the end user gets what? Because the businesses bought into this, and the business gets what? Because they chose to buy.
So at the end of the day, the end user is receiving more value for the points and miles that they already have. So the average person in America has a premium rewards credit card. Actually, over 110 million Americans have more than one, and they are sitting on hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of points and miles that they've accumulated over their lifetime, and most people don't know how to use them. So we tell the end user how to optimally use them, and by doing so, the businesses benefit because they get more loyal customers who spend more money, who stick with them longer, who churn off less, their retention goes up, and ultimately they can cross-sell more high margin and higher value products to their customers.
Beautiful.
So we increase customer lifetime value in a nutshell.
Nice. And you've proved that people care about this. I mean, you've passed the million revenue mark on a business that you started up, and like most of us, in the second business or third or fourth business you started up, right? Because that's the way it goes, right? We learn and we adjust and we shift. So very cool. Thanks for sharing. Now,
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's not been a straight journey. It's been very windy.
it never is. Like, it's just the way it is. And that's the life of the entrepreneur, right? We're always learning, we're always pivoting, we're always trying, figuring out what's the problem to solve that the market's ready for, that we can deliver on. But you've got that going now, and you'll probably have some more pivots as things move. But
Yes.
from this point now, you've passed the million, you're growing, you've got targets to do 3x of whatever you did a while back now, and really get out there and go big. What have you learned? What's helped you since you passed a million to continue to grow and expand and have the impact you want to have?
It's really honing in on replication, right? So replicating what we did before, that success, because we started off with one partner, then we got to two, then we got to three, and it builds on itself, right? It's a positive reinforcement cycle. So as you get more partners, it's easier to get additional partners. As you get more additional partners, it's easier to get more funding. As you get more funding, it's easier to expand the team, so on and so forth. So it's a it builds on itself, right? It's very, very positive. But it's not that simple, right? Because each client, each partner that we work with needs something slightly different, right? And so we're trying to focus in on using the same core technology and applying it differently. So we don't have to do any extra work unless it's absolutely necessary, right? Because extra work means more dev time, which means slower rollout, and the sales cycle for these businesses is very, very slow, right? I'm talking major financial institutions, major travel companies. These guys are behemoths, all multi-billion-dollar industries, and they don't move fast at all, right? And so the thing that we found is you need to have a serious pipeline of potential deals um, to constantly have deals flow in, because you're only going to be winning a small fraction of that potential deal pipeline, right? And so you can't go one by one, because there will be massive gaps in between. And that's what we've experienced and will still continue to experience, right? It's not something that we're going to be able to fully eliminate, but you want to minimize that.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Replicate what works. And how do we get things, how do we not customize as much, but help the customer feel as though that's happening? Right? When you're in these partnerships, I think we could figure that out for you, right? For a fee, but it's really just turning on a feature. So how do we do that? I love that. And um, any other insights, things that have helped you to grow to where you're at now?
Yeah, it's one, just learning and learning what the clients, potential partners, the space needs, right? Because everyone's pain points are slightly different, but the core crux is generally the same for a specific sense, right? So we break our customers into a variety of sectors. So you have the major financial institutions, you have neobanks, you have credit card issuers, right? Each of them, like, they are different, but they're all similar enough to each other where you can group, the strategy and their needs in one area. And generally, the way that we've learned the most is obviously through proof of concepts, POCs, right? If you can get a POC with one of these entities, hopefully it goes well and you can lock them into a full partnership. But even if not, it's still a valuable learning experience that you can then apply in terms of how you sell or try to get the attention of the other competitors that are in that same space, right? Get their attention, and then ultimately show and demonstrate that you know what they need, and you know how to solve it, and that you can solve it, right? There's multiple steps that you need to prove, and so that, I think, that's been critical. And never be too proud to say, yeah, we'll do a small pilot, right? That's not going to charge or pay us any money, just so we can get our foot in the door, right? That's what we've been doing, and I think that's essential.
Nice. Nice. Looking at proof of concept, not just to win the business, but to really learn through that process and to get both on there, right? Building your team, improving your technology, and winning the customer, right? So thank you. Good insights. Now you're at this phase. What kinds of things though are you facing? Are you struggling with? You're like, I could use a little bit of help so we can continue to grow and not get stuck or not plateau prematurely.
Yeah, I mean, it's, as we were chatting before, it's knowing where to focus, right? Because as I said, everything is positive feedback loop, right? As you get more customers, you get more funding, and more revenue, then you can build out the team. We're still small, right? We're still a small team. We can't tackle every single problem in the space, because while we're at the intersection of fintech and travel tech, it's a massive, massive TAM, right? It's ginormous, trillions and trillions of dollars we're talking about here. So we can literally do two, 3 dozen different areas and try to like solve and fix that for the space, because there's been no real innovation in travel in ages. So it's focusing in on what's going to be the best use of our time, right? Because it's zero sum. You have to pick and choose. Whatever you're going to do is at the expense of something else,
Yep.
right? And so it's hard to determine that, because some of these clients ultimately are telling you like, oh yeah, this is great, and this is awesome, we really, really want that. But because you have to jump through so many hoops and whatnot, that sales cycle blows out, and it's like, well, okay, these guys want this, but now this other company is coming in and they need something entirely different, and our team isn't big enough to do all these multiple different areas at once, right? So how do you focus in, how do you determine and stay focused on what's going to be driving that revenue, right? That
Boy,
for us
that
is the hardest thing.
that is a great question, because like if we, I mean, let's understand the cost or opportunity. I mean, one, you're talking about the multi-trillion dollar industry that needs some innovation. So there's plenty of dollar opportunity out there, and your own growth. And if you were to stay the course to something that wasn't working, what would the cost be?
I mean, ultimately, we could run ourselves in the ground, right? Like
Yeah,
if we're dedicating all that money and resources to it, and it ultimately doesn't result in any additional revenue, like we can't afford to waste 6 months or a year on developing new technology that doesn't sell, right? We would go under.
yeah, or on other levels, we say, or if we're trying out too many things, and so we never get great. And
Hmm.
so now we're out there chasing every squirrel or every shiny object, and it's painful and it's hard because what worked to get you to a million was to chase the shiny objects. That was important work. That's what we were supposed to do, right? We were proving product market fit. So we try a ton of things. We've got clients across the spectrum doing all sorts of things. And now we're figuring out which one are we best at that makes us the most money, and that the customer wants and needs, that there's enough market there for it. We've got to kind of figure those things out. But yeah, we're at this phase like, oh, I have to mature. I have to grow up. I can't just chase every shiny object. That's kind of hard, though. It was fun chasing all the shiny objects.
It was, and it is hard, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to hone in, you have to take that next level because what's working for the smaller guys and the mid tier guys is not going to cut it for the top tier behemoths, right?
Yeah.
And so they need that next level of compliance, or they need like this next feature or whatever. And obviously, I mean, the 80-20 rule. It's easy to build the first 80%. The last 20% takes as long as the 80%. And so you can deliver an 80% product to a smaller startup. You can't deliver an 80% product to a major multinational bank.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the truth of it. You hate to be the weak link that gets them hacked and in the news.
Exactly.
Right? That's one of the issues. Um, so, so how we focus and stay nimble enough that we don't lose the opportunities, and that balance can be challenging. And I get it. And I think a lot of us play with this. So, I mean, let's dive into it. There's a handful of things. Some of them take a little more time. So, are you okay if we kind of do big level vision of
Yeah.
where we're going, and then down into some practical pieces too? And I
Sounds good.
say it that way, and it's probably the wrong way to say it. What I really mean is we have to define your big level vision, because that's one of the lenses to determine what we go after. It's the highest level lens. So if you were to describe the purpose of your business, what's its purpose? What's your why? Beyond just a certain customer you serve, do you have any
Mhm.
highest level why?
Yeah, our our goal ultimately, the end thing that we're striving for, is to build a full loyalty solution for the financial world, and by that I mean the ability to handle points and miles pricing, the ability to handle liquidity, the transfer of points and miles from any program to another, right? And finally, the user loyalty wallet. So ability to keep all the information stored all in one place. So we can become the all-in-one solution for loyalty. So we will power the major banks, the small guys, the travel guys. It doesn't matter. They don't need to go anywhere else because we will have all that connective tissue. The best analogy I have is plaid for loyalty. Like that is the end goal of what we're striving for.
Okay. I mean, I'm going to call that a product level vision, which is important.
Mm-hmm.
There's a product vision. Let me ask you again what your purpose is. And this may be too far. It may be something you're like, I don't want this. This is a bunch of junk. But you, you're passionate about travel. Like, you love it. You're probably
Yeah.
frustrated that so many people out there. Remember, your first business was about helping the consumer really get out there and access all the value they have sitting untapped. They could go travel. They could
Mm-hmm.
go enjoy it. They could get things out of it, better than they could before. You you're kind of driven to do that a little bit. Is
Yeah.
that still the case with your business?
Yes, it is. So the why is actually still the same as the first startup. I would say. So we still want to help that end consumer. That's still our North Star. We're just distributing it differently and with different tactics.
Great. Great. So you've got this why. Now that why will include certain product features and exclude some others sometimes, right? That you're going to lean more this direction.
Mm-hmm.
We're heavier about getting more going this way. It's the first level filter when you're deciding even on just these issues. So I don't want it to be forgotten. Kind of has to sit at the top so your team all agrees. Because the hard thing is now you have more people and some of them may have a different why.
Okay.
And so you could be arguing about this feature we ought to do or this feature we ought to do, right? This direction on the product. And both of them are totally valid, serving different whys. That's really difficult discussion to have. It's better, and it's actually dysfunctional discussion to have. It's better to get the whys of your team all aligned. And then you could still have different feature options, but
Mm-hmm.
but everyone sees how they're both aligned. And we're like, okay, we agree there. Let's move to the next layer. And the next layer, I mean, there's kind of a fuzzier layer that has to do with around your core values may actually determine the type of work you do, but usually not as much. That normally just determines who is in it
Mm-hmm.
and how we go about doing our work. So think through your core values around your team. Then we get down to this, your mission. What's something we have to achieve in the next uh, 10 years? That's that one you just shared, right? You're like, we're going to have this kind of impact where everybody can have it all in one place, the plaid solution that pulls all the reward systems. Like, oh, that's big. And you probably have a date tied to it. Do you have
Mm-hmm.
a date tied to when you're going to get there?
Yeah, the goal is to get there in about 3 years' time.
Great. So you've got a 2026, 2027 goal sitting there to achieve this. Perfect. Now we get down into strategy. And the strategy gets even tighter around these financial institutions or whoever you're serving. We say, here's our ideal customer profile. They look like this. And here's the number one job they need to achieve. And here's how we help them achieve that. And now our product starts to get tighter. When we get into that, we start to say how and how we differentiate ourselves. This helps in some of the feature decisions. So, for instance, if what we need is the most robust system, um, uncrackable, solid, untouchable, that's one kind of feature set designs, shiny objects that we should chase because they're all in that area. If ours is the easiest to use and most customizable, it won't be as robust.
Mm-hmm.
Period. It can't be
Yeah.
because it's got all of this variation and customizability and quick changes and fast plugins and whatever else. That's a different kind of feature set.
Yes.
Or if ours is the fastest operating, where there's no lag, period. We're the fastest that's out there. There's certain platforms it's going to have to be on. There's certain code it has to run. We can't have it run all this other noise that was important for, robust or that was important for customizability. But to know, again, how we'll differentiate to where using our software is just that much better in the eyes of our ideal customers. So they think the rest of it's great because we're hitting what they care most about, is another filter set as we then look at options of what we chase. But if everyone on your team isn't agreed on the purpose, on the
Mm-hmm.
mission, on the target customer, on what they most need to achieve, on how we go about doing that and how we differentiate, or like what the main value the customer pulls from, goes back to that. What are they trying to achieve? That kind of goes like fastest, most robust. What is it? If we don't agree on that and we're trying to do for lots of different people, our code's all over the place. Our products, the way we serve just depends on who they talk to. One of them, they treat them one way, and another, they treat them another way, right? And then profitability goes down the tube. Customer satisfaction is difficult. We see more turnover because we weren't clear about what we're saying powerfully yes to. So we could, with confidence, say, no, that's not us in this business to these other things. Now, those are great opportunities. Take note. When you
Yeah.
start your next business, build one around that. It's a different business, even though it's in this travel space, even though it's in the rewards place. It's a different business if it's trying to compete in a different. So those are
So,
first level. And I know I said I was going to do a high level thing. That's the high level. Okay.
yeah.
So I gave you a high level. Everyone on the team has to be aligned in those. Then we can start to make better decisions. And there's a process that we walk through. And tell me, maybe you're doing some of this now. Do you use a process and depending on how fast you're growing, maybe quarterly kind of offsites of let's set our strategic direction of what has to be built for us to win in the next 3 months?
Yes. I'll be honest, we haven't been as regular with them as we should. We
Yeah.
went through a period where we did it once a month, actually, which was,
Yeah, because you were moving fast.
yeah. But yeah, we haven't had one in a couple months now. So, I definitely want to reinstitute that at least on a quarterly basis.
Yeah. And was your once a month a whole day off, or was it a 2 hour thing?
It's a whole day. We
Okay,
There
great.
was
So you're
nine
trying to
o'clock.
do fast iterations quickly. For our listeners, if you're not trying to do fast iterations, quick thing, quarterly is normally enough.
Okay.
But when you're moving fast, like you're saying and doing, and I've had other, especially in the tech space, where they're just moving very quickly. There's a lot of competitors. The investors are demanding all that. We move it up. It's every 2 months or it's every month kind of thing, where you have to take the time to say, no, really, where are we going? Once a year, big picture, looking out 3 years kind of stuff and what has to be done this year. But every month, do we need to pivot? What's the next thing? How do we look at it? And we've got to get your team collectively thinking. And I don't mean groupthink following somebody mindlessly. I mean challenging, but bringing similar data together. So we like to use a process where first we look at, so let's pretend this is monthly. What did we accomplish this month? What were lessons learned? So we're jointly together celebrating the wins and seeing what kinds of things we should replicate because it's working.
Hmm.
And then and identifying and learning from those wins and learning from our losses, right? Those proof of concepts didn't go so well, but we learned a lot, right? That learning. So we take the time to jointly learn together those lessons. And that's bringing our mind to this space of, I've let go of the past. I'm taking the good things from it. I'm moving forward. And then doing an exercise like a SWOT analysis would be a
Yep.
great way to look at it. Um, and or looking at something like Porter's 5 forces, where it looks at competitive forces of suppliers and buyers, vendors and buyers, new entrants into the market, um, substitutes in the market, or current competition, to help us say, how do we have to position what we have and what we're doing in order to win so we don't become a commodity. All those forces are trying to get us to become a commodity and eat our margins away, and people think they can just order it instead of something that's really spectacular for them. So those are things that if you jointly go through that, strengths and weaknesses, internal looking, opportunities and threats, external, and tie in and look at all the trends like
Hmm.
technological trends, political, environmental, economic, demographic. What are the things that are influencing us in our market, our competitors, or not our competitors? I don't care about them right now. They're in our market. Our customers, what's influencing them? What's hitting the travel industry? What's hitting the big banks, the financial ones? And maybe our consumers, what's hitting them, right? So that our stuff stays relevant to the right places. When we look at those and everyone's sharing what they've been learning, what they've been studying, because they're active learners, we hope, or we invite them to be. They're bringing all this data in. We're putting them all up on the walls or virtual walls that everybody can see it together. We're jointly thinking. And then we get to a strategic question, which is, so this month and this year and this quarter, what are the most important things that if we solve will help us achieve that 3-year mission you put out there? Okay, you were clear about what you wanted in 3 years. And I hope you put as measured by in the 3 years. We have to hit this, 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 and this. Let's get the measurements really clear so everyone knows if we hit it or not. So what has to happen this year, this quarter, this month? And they need to answer, they need to formulate the questions as a team. Let them do it individually, where they're like, oh, how can we, like, in order to hit that mission, we have to solve this problem, I think, because we identified it in the SWOT. We identified it in the competitive forces thing. How do we overcome that? Or how do we achieve this? Or how do we build this new strength given these shortcomings, these weaknesses, this strength that we don't have? And what you're doing is everybody's coming up with lots of strategic questions that should be solved. And then together we're voting, in essence. We're coming together and we're saying, now that we've debated, we've looked at, we've collapsed some of them, we've combined them, we've looked like these are the core things. Now let's choose all together. What's the win? What's happened is they've come to this place as a team, and there should have been good, passionate dialogue, really clear what they've all felt, and they've gone. Now they're putting their votes up. We're saying, okay, if we do this, will we win? And the team has to say, that's the first step. For this month, if we do this, it will win. For this quarter, if we do this, it will win. For this year, if we do this, that will win. It's headed the right way. That's the key thing. Those other ideas, let's keep them. Let's collect them. We need them. They're going to come up later. But this is the one we're doing right now. And now let's build a team. Let's build clear objectives. Let's project manage this out, and let's knock it out of the ballpark. We have to build this new feature or this new capability in our business to hire this many people, right? That may be something you actually have to solve for. We're going to have to expand the team, Great. We better figure out a process to do that. Well, when the team's now determined, and now you've built a little task force around that team of key team members, someone from the leadership team at least, maybe a couple of them, one person owns it, other members of the team that you're trying to build and grow and develop, let them go and do that. And they have regular check-ins for progress. It's not their day job. This is not a promotion. This is extra credit. And it's a chance to work with the leadership team. It's a chance to show that you've got what it takes to be with this company long-term, and we're developing them to be future leaders. That may help you to pick one thing, and everybody knows what it is, and we're all tracking it. So when John Taylor gets a great idea and he wants to go chase a new shiny object, the team's like, John, we were working on this. Are you changing the priority? Is it that important? And if everyone agrees it is, we change the priority. But everyone already went through the hard work to agree this was a win. It's not likely to get thrown out. We're going to go do this one well, then we'll work on the next thing. So that's a process that can be helpful. Do you do anything like that right now?
We've done a couple SWOT analysis. We have done that. It's last one was probably about it was the end of last year, so it's probably about 6 months ago. Was when we
it's not about the new data that comes out in the SWOT analysis.
Yeah,
it's not about that. You'll get some new data, but usually it's about the team pulling out of their day job and starting to think broader and strategically. So when we pick something, we're not picking a pet project. We're picking the important project. So
that makes sense.
It's about getting us in a strategic mindset, thinking bigger, picking the one to win, going after it. And I'm fine if you pick 3 to win, but which one is first? Like, tell me what has to win. When we knock that out, we'll hit the next one. Then we'll hit the next one. And when your team gets larger and you've got like 30, 40 people, you can pick 2 of them because you can pick 2 teams, right, to run those. Yeah. Right now, you're small. Just do one.
No, that makes total sense. No, I really like that. Thank you.
Anyway, hopefully that brings you some value and some clarity, and your team will love it because it's tracked on the wall. Everyone sees it. Everyone knows a priority. And they don't have to wonder, did John change his mind again? We're doing one thing, and we're going to do it really well. And there are metrics to show that we succeeded at it. And so anyway, hopefully that brings some value. John, thanks so much for being on the call. How do people get in touch with you or see what you have or demand from their financial institutions that they use your stuff? How do they find you?
Well, they can check us out at odin.com, ODYNN.com. Also, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. So, John Taylor Garner, you find me on LinkedIn. It's easy, or email jtgarner at odin.com.
Well, I need to find out from you what best cards and things I need to do in order to fly a large family to anywhere in the world. So those are things we like to do, is to travel and go. I love to know I've got an expert. in the room.
Yeah, happy to help. I do it all the time.
That ends this episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast. Certainly appreciate everyone who's logging in to listen, and John for giving such great insight to us. If you found value in it, please like, share, do the things necessary to share it with other seven-figure business owners to expand this community so we can help each other grow. Keep learning, keep growing, keep caring. Until next time.